Statistically, Ireland should not be this successful. It is a small island nation that has faced invasion, colonization, and even mass starvation. For centuries, Ireland struggled under foreign control and harsh conditions, and yet, today, it stands as a global leader in technology, literature, and award-winning cinema. Irish writers shape world literature. Irish tech companies influence the global economy, and Irish films regularly win Oscars. So how did a country that was pushed to its knees in the 1800s rise to become one of the most dynamic economies of the modern world? How did Ireland manage to move forward without losing its identity? Today, we will trace Ireland's long journey, from ancient Stone Age builders to the neon-lit streets of modern Dublin, to understand how the Emerald Isle kept its soul while embracing the future. For a long time, historians believed humans first arrived in Ireland around 10,000 BC, but that idea changed in 2016. Archaeologists discovered ancient animal bones in a cave in County Clare. These bones had clear cut marks, showing they had been butchered by humans. Scientists dated them to around 12,500 BC. This discovery proved that humans were living in Ireland much earlier than previously thought, right after the Ice Age ended. By the time the Neolithic period began, these early settlers were doing far more than just surviving. They were building extraordinary structures. One of the most famous examples is Newgrange, a massive stone passage tomb located in the Boyne Valley. Built around 3200 BC, Newgrange is actually older than the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Its design is astonishing. Every year on the winter solstice, a narrow beam of sunlight travels down a long stone passage and lights up the inner chamber. This shows a deep understanding of astronomy and engineering, making Newgrange feel like an ancient stone clock. Around 500 BC, the Celts arrived in Ireland. They brought iron tools, strong warrior traditions, and, most importantly, the Gaelic language. This language became the heart of Irish culture and is still spoken on the island today. Celtic myths, music, and traditions would shape Ireland's identity for thousands of years. As Europe entered the Dark Ages, much of the continent fell into chaos, but Ireland experienced a golden age. Because the Romans never conquered Ireland, its culture remained distinct and uninterrupted. In the 5th century, St. Patrick arrived and introduced Christianity. However, the Irish did not simply copy Roman traditions. Instead, they created their own unique form of Christian culture. Large monasteries spread across the island. These monasteries became centers of learning, art, and knowledge. While much of Europe was at war, Irish monks were carefully copying ancient texts and creating beautiful works of art. One of the most famous examples is the Book of Kells, a masterpiece of medieval art that still amazes people today. In many ways, Ireland helped preserve European knowledge during one of its darkest periods. This peaceful era did not last forever. In the late 8th century, Viking raiders began attacking Ireland's monasteries. Although their raids were violent, the Vikings also settled on the island. They founded Ireland's first major cities, including Dublin and Waterford. Over time, they became part of Irish society. In 1014, a powerful high king named Brian Boru defeated the Vikings at the Battle of Clontarf, breaking their political power. However, after his death, Ireland struggled to stay united. Without a strong central king, local rulers began fighting each other for control. One such king, Diarmati MacMurchada, lost his lands and made a dangerous decision. He asked the Normans in England for military help. The Normans arrived in 1169 and helped him regain power, but they liked Ireland so much that they decided to stay. By 1171, King Henry II of England crossed into Ireland and declared himself Lord of Ireland. At first, the Norman settlers slowly adopted Irish customs. They spoke Gaelic, wore Irish clothing, and followed local traditions. This worried the English crown so much that in 1366 they passed the Statutes of Kilkenny, laws designed to stop English settlers from becoming too Irish. But these laws largely failed. Things became far more violent in the 1500s and 1600s. English rulers like Henry VIII and Elizabeth I wanted full control of Ireland. After the flight of the Earls, Ireland's traditional leaders fled the country. Then, English authorities began plantations, taking land from Irish families and giving it to British settlers. In 1649, Oliver Cromwell arrived with a brutal military campaign that left deep scars on the Irish population. Despite all this suffering, Ireland endured. Its culture survived invasion, its language resisted extinction, and its people adapted without forgetting who they were. That long history of resilience would later help Ireland rise again in the modern world. The main goal of this invasion was to destroy the Irish Catholic Confederacy, which the English Commonwealth government saw as a serious threat. By the end of the campaign, England had fully conquered Ireland. Harsh penal laws were introduced, especially against Catholics, and huge amounts of Irish land were taken and given to English settlers. Irish people lost their homes, their rights, and much of their power. By the early 1800s, Ireland was officially part of the United Kingdom, but life for most people was extremely difficult. The majority of Irish families depended almost entirely on potatoes to survive. Then, in 1845, disaster struck. A disease destroyed the potato crops across the country. This event became known as the Great Famine.
Still has fewer people than it did before the famine. This suffering left a deep wound in the national memory and created a powerful desire for independence. That desire finally exploded in 1916. While much of the world was focused on World War I, Irish rebels launched the Easter Rising in Dublin. The rebellion failed militarily, and many of its leaders were executed. However, instead of crushing the movement, these executions turned public opinion against British rule. The rebellion lit a spark that soon became a full fire. This led to the Irish War of Independence. After years of fighting, a treaty was signed in 1921. Ireland gained freedom, but with a painful compromise. The island was divided. 26 counties became the Irish Free State, while 6 counties in the north remained part of the United Kingdom. This division caused deep anger and confusion, and soon led to a bitter civil war between former allies. The southern state eventually became a full republic in 1948. However, peace did not come easily to the entire island. In Northern Ireland, tensions between communities lasted for decades during a violent period known as the Troubles. It was a long and painful conflict, marked by bombings, protests, and loss of life. Finally, in 1998, the Good Friday Agreement was signed. This historic deal brought lasting peace, opened borders, and allowed people across the island to move forward together. Today, the island of Ireland, combining the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, covers about 32,595 square miles, or roughly 84,421 square kilometers. But to truly understand Ireland, you need to look beyond borders and explore its 4 ancient provinces: Ulster, Connacht, Leinster, and Munster. Let's begin our journey in the far northwest of Ulster, in County Donegal. This region feels wild, dramatic, and deeply romantic. Tall mountains and wide moorlands stretch into the distance, looking almost untouched by time. If you drive all the way to Malin Head, you reach the northernmost point of the island. Nearby, the Slieve League cliffs rise sharply from the sea. These are among the tallest sea cliffs in Europe, plunging straight down into the roaring Atlantic Ocean. As you travel inland through counties like Cavan and Monaghan, the landscape changes. The land begins to look like a giant egg carton covered in small, rounded hills. These hills are called drumlins. Between them lies a quiet little spring known as the Shannon Pot. It may look unremarkable, but this tiny spot is where Ireland's longest river, the River Shannon, begins its journey. Heading west into the province of Connacht, the scenery becomes even more dramatic. Counties like Sligo and Roscommon are filled with calm lakes surrounded by forests and rolling land. But County Mayo truly steals the show. Here stands Muil Rea, a massive mountain rising 2,671 feet, or 814 meters, straight from the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. Just offshore lies Achill Island, the largest island in Ireland, known for its cliffs, beaches, and powerful ocean views. Continuing south, you reach Galway and the Connemara region. This area feels almost unreal. One moment you're surrounded by soft green valleys, and the next you're looking at wild purple moorlands and sharp rocky peaks known as the 12 Bens. The land is harsh, beautiful, and emotional, inspiring poets and artists for centuries. Over in Westmeath, the land is scattered with long, peaceful lakes. Some of these lakes stretch for 5 or 6 miles, or about 8 to 10 kilometers. They give the region a calm, open feeling and reflect the wide Irish skies. From these inland plains, the land slowly guides you eastward until you reach Ireland's capital city, Dublin, a place where history and modern life meet. As you travel south toward Kilkenny, the landscape changes again. The soil becomes darker, richer, and more fertile. This area is perfect for farming and produces some of the finest agricultural goods in the world. Green fields stretch as far as the eye can see, showing why farming has always been so important to Ireland's economy and culture. Continuing south and west, the farms of Kilkenny eventually lead into Munster, the final and most varied province of Ireland. Munster feels like a greatest hits collection of Irish scenery. In the eastern part of the province lies the Golden Vale, one of the most productive farming regions in Europe, with deep soil and gentle rolling land. But as you move west into County Clare, the scenery suddenly changes. The green grass fades away, and the ground turns into a strange, cracked limestone landscape. This area looks almost like the surface of the moon. Here you'll find the world-famous Cliffs of Moher, dramatically rising above the Atlantic Ocean. At their highest point, the cliffs reach about 214 meters, or 702 feet, straight down to the crashing waves below. If you follow the coastline even further south, you reach the true crown jewel of Ireland's landscape, County Kerry. This region feels almost unreal. It looks like a mix between a snowy mountain range and a tropical coastline. Kerry is home to Carrauntoohil, the highest mountain in Ireland, standing at around 3,407 feet, or 1,039 meters. What makes Ireland so special is how quickly the scenery can change. In just 1 hour of driving, you can go from flat farmland to towering mountains and wild ocean cliffs. But if Ireland's geography feels like a roller coaster, the story of its economy is just as dramatic. In recent years, Ireland has become one of Europe's strongest economic performers. Many people call it an overachiever. However, it's also a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde economy. This is because so much of its success depends on large global technology and pharmaceutical companies based there. Ireland's GDP is expected to grow by an impressive 10.7% in 2025, reaching figures between 708 and 811 billion euros. To put that in perspective, most developed countries are satisfied with growth of around 2%. This sudden surge was driven mainly by an 18.5% jump in the first half of the year. Much of this growth came from pharmaceutical companies shipping large amounts of medicine to the United States ahead of possible tariff changes. Because of this unusual spike, economic growth is expected to slow sharply in 2026, with predictions of only about 0.2%. After that, the economy is expected to stabilize, returning to a healthier and more normal growth rate of around 2.9% in 2027. However, it is not all good news. While wages are rising at about 5%, inflation is creating pressure on everyday life. Overall inflation reached around 2.9% in late 2025, but the costs that people feel the most, such as groceries and housing, are rising much faster, by around 6 to 7%. This means that even though people are earning more, they are also spending much more just to live. As a result, consumer confidence remains uncertain. Many households are choosing to save more money instead of spending it, preparing for possible future challenges. People are worried about rising rents, higher food prices, and long-term economic stability. Another major concern is Ireland's heavy reliance on big global companies. Government finances are strong, but a large part of tax income comes from corporation tax paid by multinational tech and pharmaceutical firms. If global trade tensions increase or U.S. policies change, that income could fall quickly. To reduce this risk, the government is stepping in to support the economy where private investment has slowed. Even though Ireland's economy has grown by more than 50% since 2019, real investment in things like buildings, factories, and machinery has dropped by nearly 60%. To fix this, the government has launched a massive national development plan worth €103 billion, running through 2030. Around €19 billion has been set aside for 2026 alone to improve housing, transport, and infrastructure for a growing population. And that growing population brings us perfectly to the next chapter of Ireland's story, the people. You see, Ireland does not have just one single national culture. Instead, it feels like many worlds living side by side. One moment you can be walking through Dublin, a busy, modern city that feels just as fast and international as London or New York. The next moment you could be standing on the Blasket Islands off the coast of Dingle, where life feels quiet, traditional, and almost frozen in time, like something from the 18th century. Even with all these differences, there is one thing that connects people across the island: the gift of the gab. The Irish are famous for their love of conversation, storytelling, humor, and quick wit. Talking is not just a habit, it's an art, and the place where this art truly comes alive is the local pub. Now, pubs today are not exactly what they were in the past. Smoking bans and stricter drink driving laws have changed the scene, and it is no longer the wild free-for-all of the 1990s. Still, the pub remains the heart of the community. It's where neighbors meet, stories are shared, and music fills the air. Inside, you might hear the soft, emotional sound of the uilleann, Ireland's traditional bagpipes, mixed with the lively notes of the fiddle and the tin whistle. On special nights, you may even stumble into a céilí, a traditional music and dance gathering where everyone joins in, clapping, dancing, and laughing together. And speaking of dancing, Irish dance deserves special mention. The lightning-fast footwork and upright posture are instantly recognizable around the world. Many people first discovered it through river dance, the global sensation of the 1990s that turned traditional jigs and reels into a breathtaking stage performance. That same energy lives on today in festivals, competitions, and celebrations across the country. This passion for performance also shines through in Ireland's festivals. Events like the Wexford Opera Festival attract visitors from around the world. And of course, there is St. Patrick's Day, a global celebration that turns cities everywhere green and brings Irish culture to every corner of the planet. For such a small island, Ireland's creative influence is truly astonishing. The country has produced 4 Nobel Prize winners for literature: W.B. Yeats, George Bernard Shaw, Samuel Beckett, and Seamus Heaney. Irish writers have an incredible ability to take the English language and twist it, challenge it, and turn it into something poetic and powerful. From the sharp satire of Jonathan Swift to the complex brilliance of James Joyce, Irish literature has shaped the way the world reads and thinks. This deep love of words comes from a long tradition of shanachie, storytellers who passed down myths, legends, and heroic tales by the fire, long before they were ever written down. That tradition never disappeared, it simply evolved. Today, storytelling continues on the big screen. You've certainly seen Irish actors like Saoirse Ronan, Cillian Murphy, and Colin Farrell, or been moved by films like The Crying Game or The Banshees of Inisherin. Irish cinema has a unique way of mixing humor, sadness, beauty, and raw honesty. And then there's the music. Beyond traditional pub sessions, Ireland has given the world an incredible range of sounds. From the stadium-filling anthems of U2 and Bono's global activism to the calm, atmospheric music of Enna, Irish artists continue to leave their mark. Add to that the raw rock energy of Thin Lizzy and the haunting, emotional voice of Sinead O'Connor, and you get a musical identity that is instantly recognizable. At the end of the day, Ireland is a place where the past and future exist together. Its culture is deeply rooted in history, but it never stops evolving. Ancient myths live alongside modern films, traditional music shares space with global pop, and quiet rural life stands just a short drive away from modern cities. And we've talked about legends and icons, but now I want to hear from you. Is there a piece of Irish cinema, a song, or a local musician that perfectly captures that Emerald Isle magic that I missed? Share your favorites in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and check out the next one. You're gonna love it.